Hi, Deborah. It's good to be with you.
Thank you. It is so good to be with you always.
And you too, my dear friend. Wonderful to be here with you today. So, and to viewers that are joining us, welcome to our series called Become the Conscious Creator of Your Own Life. And Deborah's program within the series called The Path to Personal Power, Developing the Inner and Outer Resources to Thrive in an Ever-Changing World. And thanks for joining us. We have got a lot of ground to cover here, so we're going to just jump right in and get started. Deborah, I know one of the basic tenets of what you teach is that we are all born with a certain set of lessons that we're here to learn. Can you talk about that and tell us how you identify with these lessons?
So, when you think about it, it's not like we're born and the universe says, I think I will randomly make that person's life really difficult, right? I'll just give him so many relationship problems that his heart is feeling lonely for the rest of his life. Or I think I'll give her so many financial challenges that she's constantly in struggle. No, but sometimes it appears that way. Okay. So in the ancient science and mystical philosophy called Kabbalah, it said that we did not appear in this world by chance or through a process of random selection. We actually appeared for a reason. And that reason is what they call a tikkun, Tikkun. The literal translation of tikkun is to correct or repair. So Kabbalah says that we're each born with specific challenges or lessons we need to learn in this lifetime. Something they say, if you choose to believe this, unfinished from the last time around, and we need to correct or repair it this time. So every time we're faced with a challenge, we're given the chance to see the lesson in it and react differently. And every time we react in the same old way, the lesson is going to return again and again and again. Have you noticed? Until we get it right. And for some of us, we have lessons in the areas of, like I say, relationships. We keep attracting the same man or woman in a different body over and over. And some people in finances, every time we think we're pulling it together, it falls apart. Some have challenges with letting others take advantage of them, or procrastination, or not listening to our intuition, or needing to be right at all costs, even though it means the slow death of our relationships. We all have different tikkuns. And Kabbalah says that going through life being a good person, although it's important, isn't enough, but that the secret to profound personal growth and personal power is to start to observe ourselves and watch our reactions and change our personal patterns. And you asked, how do we know what our tikkuns are? How do we know what our lessons are that we came in to learn in this lifetime? I'll tell you what they are. It's whatever is uncomfortable for you. That is your tikkun. All the people in your life who tweak you or annoy you, they are part of your tikkun. And again, if you think you're going to die if you speak up for yourself, it's part of what you came here to correct. If you can't seem to get out of debt, that's it. If you find it difficult to not be negative, part of your tikkun. Anger, addiction, being late all the time, creating messes, needing to control others. And you know what else is your tikkun? The situations that you run away from. And you know what they are. If you really want your life to start working, it's time to start running towards them. So the last thing I'll say is that the momentary relief of avoiding a difficult situation is nothing compared to the spiritual gain and the personal power you'll experience from facing it. I promise you, on the other side is not only the elation you feel from facing a challenging situation and triumphing, but the next time and the next time, it gets easier and easier until you won't even remember that it was actually a challenging situation in your life.
Wow, I suspect that a lot of people are feeling deeply into one or more things relating to what you just shared, Debra. That was profound. Thank you. Debra, I know you had a near-death experience, and in the space between life and death, you saw something that revealed to you the mechanics of creation. Can you share that?
Yes. Well, I'm going to spare you the details of the crazy story of how I got sick and ended up having a near-death experience. And I will skip to when I cognized the mechanics of creation. But let's just say that after a series of events, I ended up being rushed to the ER by ambulance. I had what was called an acute sepsis. And if you know anything about sepsis, it's when it gets to the acute stage, you have about 50-50 chance of survival. And I was lying on the gurney and I started going to the side with the 50% who don't survive. And I knew it didn't look good when suddenly I realized that when my eyes were open, I could see everyone running around the ER room trying to save my life. And when my eyes were closed, I could still see everyone running around. And in that space between life and death, I saw a lot of things that hopefully I'll get a chance to share with everyone someday. But you asked about the mechanics of creation. So I'm slipping away, and my former husband and dear, dear friend had just arrived. And when he saw what was happening, let's just say it didn't look good. He, his eyes started filling with tears, and a little tear spilled over because it didn't look like I was going to make it. And the nurse noticed, and she went over to him and she put her hand on his shoulder and said, "Don't worry, she's going to be fine." Now, there is absolutely no reason for her to say that she was going to be fine. But when she did, I saw, accompanying the words, "she's going to be fine," this sparkly light come out of her mouth. "She's going to be fine." And it went into my body and it permeated every cell with fineness. It actually brought every fiber of my being back to life. And I'm lying there thinking, oh my goodness, what I've been teaching people for years is true, that your words have power over life and death. And then the doctor came in, looked at the monitors. I mean, my blood pressure was like 50/20. I mean, there was no reason I should still be alive. And the doctor said in this really gruff voice, "Get her blood pressure up or we are going to lose her." And in that space between life and death, when he said we're going to lose her, I saw, accompanying those words, this brown gray, like gunk come out of his mouth. And it even had a smell. It smelled like a swamp. And it went out of his mouth and it went into my body. "We're going to lose her." And it took I get emotional now because it took every ounce of strength out of my body. And I started going towards the other side again. And I remember lying there and thinking, I have got to live because I have to tell people that they really do have power over life and death. I saw that you can create and uncreate with your words. And at that moment, I made a deal with God. I said, if you let me live, I promise you, I will bring this message to the world. And also, at that moment, I also made the other side promise, and I will never say anything that I don't want to happen about me or about anybody else. Because Steve, we talked about this. We casually say things about like our kids. Oh, this isn't it. So we'll make up something that neither of our kids is, like, oh, they're so lazy, or they'll never amount to anything, or, these things that people say. You don't realize that you are putting that energy into that individual. And at that moment, I said, that's it. I will never again say anything that I don't want to happen. And have I slipped up? Yes. Do I correct myself? Yes, and replace it with something I do want to happen. But talk about personal power. I mean, if this is the only thing you really, you change in your life, it's all you need to thrive in our ever-changing world.
You told me that you'd like to share a technique with us to connect with infinite intelligence at will. Can you share that now?
Yes, it's something that I love to share, and thank you for allowing me to share it. I first learned this technique over 40 years ago when I started reading books by the great masters of success and prosperity like Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich. And it's either in that book or Grow Rich with Peace of Mind. He does this exercise called sitting for ideas, and essentially it's receiving guidance from infinite intelligence. And Napoleon Hill says that it's one of the greatest keys to his mega success. You know, his book, Think and Grow Rich, is still in the top 10 money books of all times. And it was written, what, 60, 70, 80 years ago? I don't know, maybe 100 years ago. But the reason that it's important to get guidance from infinite intelligence, which is what Napoleon Hill tells you to do, is that when you depend on the rational or reasoning mind, it more often than not leads you astray. And that's because the knowledge you act on is filtered through your accumulated life experience and all of the hurts and all of the false beliefs that you were told by your parents and your teachers and your preachers and the mass media. You make these beliefs your own, and you filter your experience and your decisions about what direction to go in life through those beliefs. But ideas received directly from infinite intelligence will bring you much more powerful results in your life, because those thoughts and those ideas and that guidance comes from a source much more reliable than the rational reasoning mind. So it's interesting because it's pretty much the same technique that our friend here at Humanities Team, Neil Donald Walsh, used when he wrote his Conversations with God's book. You know, I always think I always think it's so funny when people say, Neil Donald Walsh got messages from God. Well, guess what? So do you. Every minute of every day, Neil says the same thing. The only difference between Neil Donald Walsh and you and me is that he took the time to go to his typewriter, and when he got the messages, he wrote them down, and he trusted the messages because he believed that the source was infinite intelligence. I mean, I love Neil, but do you really think that God only talks to Neil Donald Walsh? It's just not possible. So God, and that's the God of your understanding, you can call that energy whatever you want, soul, spirit, the universe. God has messages for you. Okay. And one of the ways that you get these messages is by simply going to your source, your own guidance. I mean, doesn't it make sense that we would have the greatest knowledge about what we should do and stop asking everybody else? We each have answers that come directly from infinite intelligence. Okay. And it's there whenever we want. It's just saying, I'm here. When you're ready to ask, I'm ready to give you your answer. So here's what I recommend that people do. Bottom line, get in a quiet space, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, ask for guidance, say a prayer of protection that only the highest knowledge and God's grace comes through. Surround yourself with light, then open your eyes and write your question for infinite intelligence at the top of the page and start spontaneously writing whatever comes through. You might write at the top of the page, what is my true purpose here on earth? Or is it better for me to stay in this job or take the other offer? Or what Napoleon Hill used to write at the top of the page. He did this every day. He would write at the top of the page, God, what are you and I going to do today? And this is not a thinking exercise. It's an allowing exercise. Just allow the knowledge to come into your being. Let it flow onto the paper. I call it taking dictation from God. Just keep writing, even if it goes in a different direction. This is what God, the universe, source wants you to know. When you're done, go back, read it over. If there are action steps, trust them with confidence, because again, the source is much more reliable than your conscious thinking mind. And I
So,
just want to add one thing. You know, if we want to be the conscious creators of our own lives, then we have to turn to ourselves for answers. If we want somebody else to be the conscious creator of our life, which is what we usually do, is we ask everybody else's opinion. And so that's great. You could let them in their ideas create your life, but you just have to know that you are never given a question, a problem, a situation without being given all of the answers. You just have to turn to this technique and others, but this one works really well to just uncover those answers.
and so let me go to this question then. Many people are aware that we have spirit and angel helpers, but they don't necessarily know how to communicate with them or receive assistance. Can you share with us what you teach on this subject?
Yes, absolutely. This will be a shorter answer because it's 3 words, which of course I'll then expand on, but it's 3 words. And the 3 words are ask out loud. Okay, so I am not an expert on angel communication. I mean, in other words, I am not one of those people who is an angel communicator. I'm not going to put up my shingle, you know, I communicate with angels, but I can say that I have read so many books by people who are and who do directly communicate with the angelic realm. And almost every single one of them says that there are untold numbers of angels and spirit helpers at our service, but they are not allowed to interfere in our lives or help us unless we invite them, unless we ask. And the best way to ask is out loud. So there is no uncertainty about what you want. And your request doesn't get drowned out by your mind going at 100 miles an hour and filled with all kinds of other garbage. They want to guide us. They want to help us. They want to help us find our soulmate. They want to help us find the perfect job. They want to help us find financial abundance. They want to help us turn down the stress, but you have to ask. And there are specific angels to ask. There's the angel of mercy. You can call on at your darkest hour. The angel of healing when you need healing, mental or physical or emotional. Angel of purpose when you're struggling with your life's purpose. Angel of knowledge when you need insight. I call on the angel of knowledge whenever I'm writing speeches or creating my seminars. And then there are what's called the unknown or unemployed angels. And there are 144,000 of them just waiting for you to call on them. And they cannot wait to come to your aid, but you need to do it out loud. And I could share with you 144,000 experiences that I've had of asking for angelic help out loud. Boom, they are right there. And then trust. Even if the demonstration is not immediate, be patient, because as soon as you invite them, as soon as you ask them out loud, they are busy getting together all the details.